Imagine building a company that would earn $92 billion in net sales in a single year. A company that employed more than 300,000 people, who helped bring more than 300 products to market to become a cultural icon. When Caleb Bradham created the first Pepsi drink in 1893, he couldn't have had any idea the impact it would have. His first advertising campaign marketed Pepsi as delicious and healthful. More than 100 years later, the irony of that claim has reared its ugly head. Today on Sketchy Tunes, we're going to tell you the real reason Pepsi is failing. For decades, two behemoths have cast their shadows over the soft drink industry, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Both have market caps north of $200 billion and have hundreds of brand names under their corporate umbrellas. But Coca-Cola has been the undisputed champion of soft drinks for decades, and now PepsiCo is feeling the heat. Despite numerous celebrity endorsements and global branding campaigns, the Pepsi brand is losing ground. Many of you probably remember the Pepsi Challenge. It began in 1975, and consumers participated in a blind taste test where they'd be offered two soft drinks, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, though the tasters weren't told what they were sampling. The tests were set up in shopping malls across the United States, and Pepsi executives were over the moon as the results came in. Time after time, people chose Pepsi over their competitor. The campaign was so successful, they hired famous TV and movie personalities to conduct the tests on television as part of their nationwide marketing campaign. Coca-Cola executives were so scared of their stock free-falling, they did the unthinkable. In 1985, they changed their formula to taste more like Pepsi. It was a disastrous move, and they were forced to change it back after they received hundreds of thousands of letters. The PepsiCo team had them rattled and were threatening to steal the #1 spot. They moved on from the Pepsi Challenge campaign in 1984 and revealed what they thought was their secret weapon to earn them total global domination. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Jackson was seen on television and billboards around the world announcing that Pepsi was the choice of a new generation. Soon, more than a dozen celebrities were spreading the message. But it wasn't enough. They couldn't take the #1 spot. So what did they do? They tried to rekindle past glory and brought back the Pepsi Challenge. Sort of. It was the Diet Pepsi Challenge and was a repeat of the original success. People said they preferred the taste, but the executives had no long-term plan to convert people into long-term customers. As it turned out, they had no plan at all. The Pepsi Challenge was rolled out again in 1990, 2000, and 2015. The 2015 campaign was nothing more than a hashtag used on their social media accounts. They even rolled out a new Pepsi in 2015 to coincide with the date that it was shown in the 1985 film Back to the Future Part 2. The vitamin-enriched Pepsi Perfect became a reality, but it turned out to be a huge mistake. They only made 6,500 bottles, and they were only available from Walmart, Amazon, and the official Pepsi website. Why would they limit the production and availability of a commodity product? It made no sense, and it didn't stop there. Back to the Future grossed nearly $1.3 billion at the box office. Everyone knows about the movie, but no one knows about Pepsi Perfect because the PepsiCo decision-makers failed to make it widely available. They failed to connect it with Michael J. Fox's Marty McFly character by including it on posters, action figures, comic books, or Halloween costumes. They could have sold it at Comic-Con in New York and San Diego, where more than 3,000 attended. They could have donated proceeds of sales to the Michael J. Fox Foundation to help find a cure for Parkinson's disease. It was more of the same from PepsiCo. Advertise and get some media exposure, but do nothing in the real world to promote the product. They could have sent free samples to everyone who chose Pepsi in the Pepsi Challenge. They could have tied it to a national holiday, like Coke did with Christmas, but they didn't do anything. After dozens and dozens of expensive celebrity endorsements, diving into countless global markets, and conducting taste tests across the United States, people weren't trading their Coca-Cola for Pepsi. And now, the irony of starting out with a product deemed to be delicious and healthful and not jumping on the opportunity to promote a vitamin-enriched product is on full display. Consumers want functional health benefits, and the Pepsi challenge has taken on a whole new meaning. With the soda market pivoting into less sugary options, Pepsi is faced with its greatest challenge, and they can't rely on hitting a home run with a slick marketing campaign. The beverage sector is buzzing with talk of good-for-you brands, better-for-you products, gut health, and natural ingredients. No celebrity spokesperson is going to shift the focus away from that like they may have been able to 50 years ago. In 2016, the US soda market hit a 30-year low, and of the big players, Pepsi was hit the hardest. They experienced a 3% decline in sales, and that trend continued through 2024. Not only are they faced with the problems of consumer demands for more healthy drink options, many global markets have placed taxes and levies on sugar, driving up costs. And there was even worse news. Frito-Lay's North America division took a 2% hit in the first quarter of 2024, and Quaker Foods sales volumes dropped by a whopping 22%, largely due to an expanded recall after a salmonella scare. Both of those companies are owned by PepsiCo, and that meant a 5% decrease in overall sales through the first quarter of 2024. Adding to the quality issues is shrinkflation. That may not be a term that everyone is familiar with, but it's a growing concern amongst consumers. Shrinkflation simply means that a product's package size has been reduced in order to keep the price about the same. Consumers are being forced to pay more attention to how every dollar is spent in the face of historic price increases. It's been a common practice for a long time, but it's only recently come into the spotlight due to growing competition and inflated prices. Just as more attention is being paid to healthy drink alternatives, people are looking to not only eat healthier, but to eat smaller portions. So that has also drawn attention to shrinkflation. There's also a health aspect that Pepsi executives couldn't have expected to arise: the popularity of the weight loss drug Ozempic. When the PepsiCo CEO, Ramon Laguerta, was asked about the impact that the hunger suppressant has had on the business, he claimed that the impact was negligible so far, and added that reducing sodium, fat, and sugar in their foods would go a long way to ensuring that they wouldn't be impacted in a major way. That's wishful thinking, based on how their market share has continued to sink over the last several years. But since it was an investor that asked the question, there wasn't much else he could say. So, with increasing competition in the snack food, sports, and energy drink sectors, and now pharmaceuticals, their problems seem to be getting bigger. But surely they've done something to combat the growing trend away from the sugar-filled beverages the market is rejecting, right? Well, they have acquired several new healthier options, but their core moneymakers, like Gatorade, lost market share to a new drink on the scene: Logan Paul's Prime energy drink. Yes, that's right. Logan Paul stole the market share from the global behemoth. Though Gatorade is the best-selling single sports drink in the US market, that's a very alarming sign. It's made worse by the fact that Powerade and Body Armor are numbers 2 and 3 on the list, and they're both owned by Coca-Cola. So they're not going away. PepsiCo's 2024 first quarter decline led to something that was unthinkable a very short time ago. Pepsi-Cola was overtaken and bumped down to the number 3 spot in the sales rankings. Moving into the number 2 spot was a drink even older than Pepsi: Dr. Pepper. In July, the cherry-flavored beverage gained an 8.34% market share, edging past Pepsi, which held an 8.31% share. While Pepsi was battling it out with Coke, Dr. Pepper kept themselves out of the fight and carved out their own branding and image that didn't involve feuding with the other players. If PepsiCo followed that path, they likely wouldn't be in the position they're in now. And with other established soda brands following the Dr. Pepper blueprint, they may fall out of the 3rd spot in the near future. Jones Soda Company has Jones Zero Cola, a low-sugar, zero-calorie option and the company is aggressively adjusting its business practices to jump into the healthier soda race to the top. In 2025, they've gone lean and mean, reducing both their selling, marketing, and administrative expenses by 20% with no drop-off in productivity. De La Cal's Mandarin Refresco modern soda is also on the radar of conscious consumers. The new flavor for 2025 has people talking, and they like what they see and taste. For starters, it's gluten-free, low sugar, low calorie, and certified USDA organic. The taste has been described as bold with a citrusy punch, and it has something that Pepsi has been lacking: its own cultural niche that speaks to traditional Mexican beverages. That's something that Pepsi hasn't had for 40 years, and they failed to fully capitalize on it. Ego can be a very destructive thing, especially in business, and that might be a lesson that Pepsi executives haven't learned yet. It's not like Pepsi hasn't had any options sold under the healthy umbrella. They've had their well-known water brand, Aquafina, but they were behind Dasani, owned by Coca-Cola, Perrier, Evian, Fiji, San Pellegrino, and a host of others. Matter of fact, Aquafina wasn't even in the top 12 best-selling waters globally in 2024. Investors and consumers have been waiting for Pepsi to make a real move, to rebrand their image and regain their status as the untouchable number 2 behind Coca-Cola. So, what did 2025 bring? Well, more of the same so far. In March, Pepsi bought Poppi. Poppi is a sparkling, prebiotic-rich, low-sugar, low-calorie soda made with apple cider vinegar, available in a variety of flavors like classic cola, root beer, and strawberry lemon. The purchase was clearly in response to the news that Coca-Cola is releasing its own healthy, prebiotic alternative called Simply Pop. On the surface, it would seem like buying an already established brand would be a good move for Pepsi, but in reality, it may be yet another mistake. While Simply Pop has a higher sugar content than Poppi, its high content comes from the fact that its various flavors are made from up to 30% real fruit juice and no added sugars. Pepsi's Poppi can't claim that, and consumers don't take issue with natural sugars. Pepsi may find themselves behind the healthy marketing 8-ball once again. Both sodas are being sold in the US at the same price point, so Pepsi can't use that as a market advantage either. Early reviews have suggested that though Simply Pop tastes bland because of the lack of added sugar or sweeteners, that may not benefit Pepsi if the added sugar in Poppi is deemed the reason for the slightly better taste. After a disastrous 2024 for PepsiCo, we're going to find out if they've learned any lessons from past failures. Their responses in the beverage and food sectors are under the microscope more than ever before, for consumers and, more importantly, their shareholders.